July 14th, 1789. That's the date. It's the flashpoint, really, the moment the French Revolution just exploded.
Right into the history books.
And it's all defined by this one single image. A massive, imposing stone fortress right in the heart of Paris, the Bastille.
But it wasn't just a building.
No, not at all. So why? Why would an ordinary Parisian risk everything to attack this terrifying structure?
Because it was pure symbolism. I mean, the Bastille was old, originally built to defend the city, but by 1789, its job was something else entirely. It was a royal prison.
And the key here is that the king, Louis XVI, could lock up anyone he wanted.
Anyone. He used these things called lettres cachées. No trial, no judge, no reason needed, just an order from the king.
So imagine walking past that tower every day. Those huge walls weren't just holding prisoners. They were a constant reminder of the king's absolute unfair power.
Exactly. A monument to it.
Yeah.
And you really can't understand July 14th without understanding the years leading up to it.
Yeah.
This wasn't a sudden thing. It was a crisis that had been building for a long, long time.
Okay, so let's get into that. The money problem. Because revolutions are almost always about money, or the lack of it. France was basically bankrupt. How did it get so bad?
Well, in a word, wars. Really expensive wars. What's kind of fascinating is they'd spent a fortune helping the American colonies fight Great Britain.
Just to spite the British.
Exactly. They literally bankrupted themselves funding another country's revolution. By 1788, something like half of France's entire yearly budget was just going to pay interest on the debt.
Oh, that's completely unsustainable. So when the money runs out, who gets the bill?
Common people, always. The king's solution was just to raise taxes. But this is where the system completely breaks down, and the unfairness of it all becomes the fuse.
You're talking about the three estates.
Right. The structure of their whole society. You have the first estate, the clergy, and the second estate, the nobility. They had most of the wealth, but paid almost no taxes.
While the third estate, which is basically everyone else.
Everyone else, from poor farmers to city merchants, they were crushed under the tax burden.
So you have this massive debt, the rich refusing to pay, and the commoners footing the entire bill.
And that economic pressure turns into real daily misery, especially in Paris. We have to talk about the price of bread.
The most basic food.
It was a crisis of survival. In 1789, a single loaf of bread could cost almost a whole day's wage for a worker. Families were starving.
And when you have that kind of hunger mixed with that level of unfairness...
You get a city that's ready to explode. Protests, tension, it was everywhere.
So the people are hungry, they're angry. And this brings us to the political side of things. The king calls a big meeting, the Estates General, to try and solve this mess.
But the representatives for the common people, the Third Estate, they quickly realized they were just being ignored. The old rules meant they'd always be outvoted.
So they did something dramatic.
In June 1789, they just walked out. They broke away and declared themselves the National Assembly. They said, "We are the true voice of the French nation."
And their goal wasn't just, lower taxes. It was much bigger than that.
Oh, way bigger. They wanted to write a new constitution, one that would limit the king's power for good and give rights to all citizens.
Which leads to this really iconic moment, the tennis court oath. The king literally locked them out of their meeting hall.
Tried to shut them down, but they weren't having it.
No, they just found a nearby indoor tennis court and held their meeting there. And they swore an oath to stick together until that constitution was finished.
It was a direct challenge to the monarchy. Declaration that they weren't backing down. And you start to see that defiance spread, even to the army.
Right. A lot of the soldiers were from the Third Estate themselves.
So their loyalty started to shift. They began supporting the National Assembly, not the king.
And this terrified people. They were afraid the king would use his loyal troops, especially foreign mercenaries, to crush the whole movement.
Which led them to one conclusion.
They needed to arm themselves.
Immediately. They needed weapons, and just as important, they needed gunpowder.
So on the morning of July 14th, they make their first move. A huge crowd marches on Les Invalides.
Which wasn't just a home for old soldiers. It was a major military complex, a huge armory.
And they took it.
They did. They seized somewhere around 30,000 muskets. An incredible move.
So they have the guns, but there's a problem.
A huge problem. They couldn't fire a single one.
They had no gunpowder.
And they knew exactly where to find it. A massive supply was locked away inside the Bastille.
That's what focuses the entire day on that one building. And the urgency was just off the charts.
Rumors were flying. People were saying the king was already moving troops to surround the city. In a revolution, a rumor can feel like a fact. They felt like they had to act right then.
So this massive crowd, maybe 50,000 people, gathers outside the fortress. The man in charge is Governor Bernard René Delaunay.
And he's determined to hold the fortress for the king. He's got thick stone walls. He's got soldiers.
So at first, they try to talk.
Yeah, some representatives from the crowd go inside to negotiate. Delaunay actually invites them to lunch, but he completely refuses to hand over any gunpowder.
And this delay is just making the crowd outside angrier and angrier.
The negotiators try to get him to make one small gesture of peace. Just move the big cannons on the walls so they aren't pointing at the crowd.
This is where everything just goes wrong, isn't it?
It's the turning point. The crowd sees the soldiers moving the cannons.
And they think they're about to be fired on.
They think they're preparing to shoot. That misunderstanding, that one moment, is a spark. All the patience is gone.
The crowd just surges forward. They attack the chains of the outer drawbridge with axes, whatever they can find.
And the chains snap. The bridge crashes down, and hundreds of people rush into the outer courtyard. They are now officially invading a royal fortress.
The soldiers inside immediately open fire.
Yes, they fire their muskets right into the crowd. People are killed, wounded. It's no longer a protest. It is a full-blown battle.
An incredibly uneven battle at first.
Very uneven. Untrained citizens against soldiers behind stone walls. But they were determined.
But then the tide turns. Around 3 in the afternoon, help arrives.
Decisive help. A group of professional soldiers. The French Guards. These are the guys who had deserted the king to join the people.
And they didn't come empty-handed.
No. They brought the big guns. Literally. They brought several large cannons they'd taken from the invalids earlier.
That's the game changer.
Completely. These guys knew how to aim artillery. They prepared to just blow the main gates open. Governor Delaunay sees this, and he knows it's over.
He's hopeless, so he panics.
In a big way. He threatens to light the entire gunpowder supply in the basement. Just blow up the whole fortress and the entire neighborhood with it.
An unbelievable threat.
But his own soldiers stopped him. They knew it was madness. They would rather surrender than die like that.
So he gives up.
He writes a quick note, offers to surrender if his men can leave safely, and lowers the inner drawbridge.
The crowd pours in, they seize the weapons, the keys, everything.
And they seize Delaunay.
The crowd was not interested in a safe passage for him, were they?
Not at all. They were furious about the people who had died. They dragged him toward the city hall, but he was killed by the mob on the way. A brutal end, and really the first major execution of the revolution.
So, after all that, after all the bloodshed, they finally get inside the great prison. What did they find?
This is the truly amazing part. They found 7 prisoners.
Only 7.
That's it. 2 were mentally ill, 4 were forgers, and 1 was a nobleman whose own family had asked for him to be locked up. It was practically empty.
But that didn't matter, did it?
Not one bit. Symbolically, it was a massive victory. It proved the king's power to just make people disappear was broken.
And they wanted to make sure it was broken for good.
Absolutely. Almost immediately, people started tearing the Bastille down, brick by brick. It wasn't just demolition. It was like a political act, erasing this symbol of oppression from the map.
And a businessman actually organized it all.
Pierre-François Pelloy. He even made souvenirs. Some stones were carved into little models of the Bastille and sold.
But the best part is what happened to most of the stone.
It was used to build a bridge, the Pont la Concorde, which is still there in Paris today.
Think about that. You're literally walking on the recycled ruins of royal tyranny.
It's an incredible metaphor. And then you have to look at the king's reaction to all this.
Which was just clueless.
Completely. He was out hunting at his palace in Versailles. He actually wrote in his diary for July 14th the word rien.
Nothing.
Nothing important happened today. He had no idea.
Until a nobleman finally rushes in to tell him the news. The king asks if it's just a revolt.
And the Duke gives that famous reply.
Yeah.
No, sire, it is not a revolt. It is a revolution.
And in that moment, the king must have realized the world had changed. He couldn't trust his army anymore.
He was forced to go to Paris and put on the revolutionary symbol, the red, white, and blue ribbon. It was an act of submission. It was the beginning of the end for absolute monarchy in France.
That one afternoon really did shift power from the king to the people.
It demonstrated that ordinary people, through collective action, could change their government. That's its power.
And the fall of that prison is still this powerful symbol, isn't it? A symbol of fighting against unfair government, of pushing for liberty and equality.
That's exactly why every year on July 14th, France celebrates that day. It's their national holiday, remembering the moment the people proved that the power of the nation was truly theirs.
Good luck with your studies.